Is mastering watercolor gradients on your to-do list? Mine too. I'd like to share 4 tips you might want to consider the next time you give this technique a try. Throughout this video, I'll be listing those tips one at a time on the right side of the screen. And on the left, I'll just be doing my best to paint with these tips in mind. But if you've visited my channel before, then you'll know that I too am in learning mode. So at the end, we'll evaluate my work and see how I did. A gradient can be done with a single color, subtly going from dark to light, or it can be a way to transition from one color to the next. We'll be looking at both versions today. Number 1, keep the amount of water on your brush as consistent as possible. This is a tough request, since we do need to vary the amount of water we're adding in order to vary our values. But adding too much water at one time can result in blooms and inconsistencies. Take a look at the examples on the right where the excess water has pushed away the color I had already put down. And without enough water, the paint won't be able to flow and blend. Number 2, stick to horizontal brush strokes. If you're someone who can accomplish a smooth gradient with vertical strokes, then I applaud you. I've tried pulling the paint down the paper and the result was not pretty. I was spreading inconsistent amounts of pigment all over the paper. Are you noticing a theme here? Consistency, that's the key word. Consistency with water and consistency with brush strokes. Number 3, once you start painting, keep moving until you cover the page. If you're working on a single color gradient, this would mean keep going until you reach the bottom. If you're working on a 2-color gradient, then keep working until you reach the midsection where those colors meet. Looking to the right, we can see what can happen if you stop for too long. The paint will start to dry and you'll wind up with harsh lines. Number 4, it might take more than one layer to get to your desired color. I find it's easier to let the first layer dry entirely before adding a second layer. Looking to the right again, I'm trying to add more and more color to the wet paint, and it's actually having the opposite effect that I want. Instead of getting darker, my brush is removing some of the existing color. So with that in mind, off camera, I've repeated the exact same process and added another layer. Now that my quadrants are dry, let's evaluate. I'm noticing right away that I could have gone darker at the top of this first one. There's not enough of a contrast between the top and the bottom. And the second attempt does have some streaks. Looking back at my video, I don't think I had enough water on my brush for the lower portion. I would say my third attempt turned out the best. Now, while I was looking at the fourth one, I realized that I didn't leave any room for my colors to breathe. The result is a somewhat muddy overlap of colors. So I think we should add a 5th tip. When transitioning between colors, consider whether you like the blend of those 2 colors. If we were painting red next to blue, for example, we would likely welcome the blend, and we'd end up with purple in between. However, with the colors I chose, I would have preferred to let them fade out more in between, giving them room to breathe on their own. Well, that's all I have for now. In part 2, I'll be using these 4 practice paintings to share some fun ideas for your gradient backgrounds. See you soon!